6 months down, 6 months to go. The first half of the year has been eventful, but even that word feels insufficient. I've tried to use Notion to organize all of my thoughts and progress and milestones throughout these first 6 months, but distilling that information into a format that's shareable is a whole other story. So, here is my attempt at breaking down my first 6 months of the year personally and professionally, and I hope you guys enjoy. This is a culmination of about 3 articles that I wrote originally on my newsletter, Please Hustle Responsibly. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. It is the best place on the internet for creators to learn, grow, and connect. And once this community reaches 2,000 subscribers, I will give away free personal branding and storytelling ideas to anyone who shares their website, creative project, or main social media profile with me. So share the newsletter to help us reach this community goal. All right, let's dive in. The first part of this is going to be breaking down the ugly, the bad, the good, the great, and the unexpected. So let's start with the ugly. Let's start with the veggies. I've been splitting my time between my home state, Alabama, and my adopted home, North Carolina. 8-hour drives, which is 16 hours round trip, can be brutal. Being on the road for 2 weeks at a time, which I have been a lot this year, can be a lot to prep and plan for. And don't get me started on health insurance once you leave the state. It's a complete joke. My film partner got cancer again. Some of you may know that Jordan is my film buddy, and we haven't been able to work together like we usually do. He's going to pull through, but hearing that news was rough. Nothing worse than seeing the people you care about going through a painful experience. During the first half of the year, I decided that I didn't want to pursue paid subscribers for my newsletter, which was slated to be a source of income this year. I transitioned away from this goal to prioritize building digital products. I'm figuring things out as I go, but I think this was a step in the right direction. The creative sprint that was meant to go behind the paywall in Q1 also got scrapped. I'll turn all the prompts into a digital product, so not all is lost there, but it was an ambitious goal that I couldn't maintain. While paid subscribers may be the way for many, it's just not the way for me. And pivoting to another income stream simply takes time. Last but not least in the ugly category is the time it's taking me to write narrative projects. Narrative series take a long time for me to write, mainly because I have a hard time protecting my writing time outside of writing my newsletter. They are also more costly to produce than documentaries because of the cast and crew. That's not a good or a bad thing, just a reality of the greatest team sport there is. It's a test of patience and vulnerability, and the writing done in secret creates the life everyone wants. Next, let's talk about the bad. And first on the list is again referencing time, is the time it's taking me to transition away from freelance work being my main source of income. I'm not going cold turkey, which is good for my anxiety and my bank account, and I've had a few years to chisel away at that majority piece of the pie. But continuing to dwindle it down and replace it with other sources of income has definitely been challenging. There doesn't feel like a definitive rule book for this, so I'm just making it up as I go. In line with that is trying to get more brand deals to supplement my income. And securing brand deals has just been really difficult. I've had some great conversations, but this just feels like a rough time to be raising money for original work. I'm not discouraged by that, but I understand the economic times we're in. I'm trying to continue to be intentional about what a lucrative and meaningful partnership means for me. I had to cancel attendance at certain events to prioritize client work and original work, namely Podcast Show London, the Global Entrepreneurship Congress, and Render ATL. I still think these events would help me connect with relevant people who are interested in what I'm building, But I also knew I could put an equal amount of time, effort, and money into creating videos on YouTube, building digital products, and creating the new season of Honey and Hustle, which in the long run may pay off more for new audience and customer acquisition. I also believe these will better position me as a person people want to meet when I do go to those events in the future. All right, that's enough of the veggies. Let's talk about some good stuff. The community and industry events I've been able to attend have been incredible. Podcast Movement Chicago, WNBA watch parties, film festivals, and Sloss Tech have been so much fun. I've met people in person that I'm connected with online, which is always fun for me. I feel really dialed in on my writing voice. I feel really good about the quality and unique perspective I'm putting into my writing, podcasts, and videos. The film festival circuit across the Southeast for Trail Therapy has been great. Even though we didn't get into every film festival we applied to, I'm very happy with what we've been able to accomplish. I'm excited to release the director's commentary video as well as the full film on YouTube soon. Creative partnerships and collaborations that I have done this year have been awesome. A huge shout out to everyone who's collaborated with me and trusted me to do some new things for the first time. There is a couple of people who went live for the first time. There were a couple of people who had never done a live stream before we did on Substack. So that was really fun to be a part of that experience and help them feel comfortable doing something new. One of my goals this year was to fall back in love with audio, and I think I'm on the way to doing that. Honey and Hustle is a seasonal show, but I've been wanting to find ways to keep the feed active in between seasons, and I think I've done a good job at this. And that started with doing a daily podcasting challenge in February. Doing a daily podcast challenge was the hardest but most rewarding thing I've ever done on the show. And I'll be sharing more about my creative experience later on in this episode. I've also started a new short documentary. This will go straight to YouTube on the Melanin MVP channel. This film will feel more like video journalism than an artistic film, and I'm okay with that. There's never a wrong time to try out something new. Last but not least, I've been cooking up some new websites. Honey and Hustle has a good home that's hosted on Podpage, which is a website hosting platform meant specifically for podcasters. My personal website has a home again. I built this on Framer with just a free template, so really excited about that. The home for Melanin MVP will be revealed soon. Our 1-year anniversary is in July of 2025. So I'm excited to reveal that as part of our 1-year anniversary celebration. Rootfulmedia is under construction as I dial in the direction of the company toward original media and away from freelancing and client work. And last but not least, Please Hustle Responsibly will be getting a new internet home, which will be revealed on our 2nd anniversary later this year. So again, subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't already to get access to this incredible website, which would be more like a resource hub for you. That was the good. Let's talk about the great, because there's always something great to be excited about. I'm on track to meet many of the milestones and goals that I have for this year. So now I'm looking at potential stretch goals and exploring how I can close the gap on the goals I haven't yet reached. I'll be sharing more about my numbers later on in this episode, so don't worry, we're getting there. At the rate I'm creating new forms of media as a podcaster, I'll be able to call my shot anywhere I'd like next year. And please believe that I will. I think there's a lot of room for growth in my business on the speaking side of things. It just hasn't been a priority this year. Ironically, I've never spoken at a podcast conference about video podcasting. I think that will change after this next season airs. I have a clear idea of the next products I want to create. I struggled with this for a long time. What knowledge or expertise do I have that people would be willing to pay for? What formats will work best for me and for them? Those answers feel easier now. Writing Community OS, which stands for Community Operating System, is underway. And when that's done, I have 3 more products ready for production. One really great thing about this year is getting to spend time with my family. I've been going back and forth between Alabama and North Carolina, which is admittedly difficult, but also really rewarding. I've been home for my mom's birthday, Easter, Mother's Day, my cousin's graduation, my aunt's 50th wedding anniversary, Memorial Day weekend, and now the 4th of July. I haven't been able to do this in 6 years. I sacrificed a lot to be away from my family for so long, and I'm happy that the business is at a place where I don't have to make that choice as much anymore. Betting on yourself can be risky, but it's one of the best things that I've ever done. We've had our veggies, we've had our dessert. Now let's talk about the little sweet treat at the end that's unexpected. That little glass of champagne that the waiter brings out to you after your meal just because they love that you're having a great time and they want to make it better. The unexpected things of this year. I've done some really fun creative experiments that have paid off. I've definitely had years when experiments were costly and ineffective. So this is a high note for me. I covered my first NWSL game as official media. I'll also probably be at some WNBA games this season as media. And getting this in the first year of Melanin MVP is a huge win. I feel like Honey and Hustle started in 2020 and I had no idea what I was doing. And now everything that I've learned, albeit the hard way, is paying off for Melanin MVP. Substack live sessions have been awesome for building community. I never thought I would really enjoy live streaming, but Corey and Michelle make it easy. We took a little break during June, but we'll be back at it again for the second half of the year, and I'm so excited. Vibe coding to make some of my custom web design dreams come true is such a fun time. Vibe coding wasn't even in my vocabulary before this year. I still don't know anything about writing code, but I do know a lot more about web design and user experience design. I can't wait to unveil everything I've been working on. But until that time, let's talk about the messy middle of content creation. This is the second part of this episode where I'm sharing real metrics, honest reflections, and the roadmap for what's next in my creative business. Behind any achieved goal is a simple truth. It's all a numbers game. The number of hours you put in, the number of reps you take, the many times you failed, the number of things you tried in search of what works for you. Behind those metrics and analytics are real stories. Behind those metrics and analytics are real stories of perseverance, strategic pivots, and the daily grind that rarely make it to the highlight reel that we see when you finally get it right. I'm pulling back the curtain to share what my content creation goals are for the year and how I'm progressing towards reaching those goals. So here's my 2025 mid-year report card, if you will. YouTube views. I had a goal to reach 55,000 views for the year. From January to June, I reached 13,115 views. YouTube subscribers. I had a goal to reach 1,000, finally. From January to June, I grew to 714 subscribers, which is a net new 99 subscribers. For YouTube impressions, I had a goal to reach 500,000 or 500,000. From January to June, I garnered 130,000 impressions, roughly. For my newsletter, Please Hustle Responsibly, I had a goal to reach 3,000 subscribers. From January to June, I grew to 1,383, which is a net new 633 subscribers. For my newsletter, again, I had a goal of reaching 50,000 total views on my articles. From January to June, I garnered 57,040 views. On my new newsletter, Melanin MVP, which is for women sports fans, I had a goal of reaching 1,400 subscribers. From January to June, I grew to 181, which is a net new 103 subscribers. A little bit of backstory on how I chose these numbers, in case that's of interest to anyone, before we get into breaking down my thoughts and reflections on my progress towards these goals. So for YouTube, from the moment I started posting on YouTube to the end of 2024, I garnered right around 50,000 views. So while it may sound absolutely insane to have a yearly goal of 55,000 views, which is more than I've made in the lifetime of the channel, for me, it was about how can I harness everything that I've learned from 2019 to 2024, which is roughly 5 years, and make exponential progress in 1 year using that knowledge and information and skills as a filmmaker. So, will I reach 55,000? I have no idea. But you know what? I think that's the point, is to push myself to do something that I've never been able to do yet, but am excited about, and that challenges me. In terms of having 1,000 subscribers is the bare minimum for monetization. And I do want to get to a point where my YouTube channel is monetized and is a source of income for me through AdSense. So while I can't totally predict the hours watched, which is also a metric for monetization, I can determine what my input is to get to at least 1,000 subscribers. And that for me is about staying consistent even when I get discouraged about the slow progress or seeming lack of progress on YouTube. Same thing with impressions. Impressions are about inputs. Am I putting out enough videos to garner impressions and inputs, and high quality videos at that? For Please Hustle Responsibly, we started the year with 750 subscribers. So to essentially go, I think that's what, almost 4 times what I gained in year one. I think that it sounds like it's ambitious, but in reality, we're talking about a year plus of experience writing and marketing a newsletter, understanding who my audience is and where they hang out, and putting all of that into this year's consistency and articles and quality and marketing. So 3,000 felt like a really good goal. In terms of views, I think we had maybe 30,000, not quite 30,000 in all of 2024. So I was essentially trying to double that by hitting 50,000. We surpassed this goal by the halfway mark. So maybe we'll hit 100,000 total views on Please Hustle Responsibly. But that to me felt like an attainable goal. And I'm really happy that we were able to accomplish that in the first 6 months of the year. Please Hustle Responsibly is completely my own product. For me to reach 750 subscribers in 1 year, essentially, was a really huge goal. So when I partnered with the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, and Jason is the founder of the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, which Melanin MVP is a part of. He was like, if you can do 750 by yourself, you can probably do double that with our help in helping you market that community. So that's where the goal for 1,400 came from. It's probably our biggest gap right now, as I'm only at 181 subscribers on the year. But again, even if we don't hit 1,400, I know that momentum is on our side when you have two communities that are coming together to push these stories of Black and brown women athletes. So I'm still excited about the progress that we made. And again, even though we seemingly haven't gotten that far into that goal, with over 100 new subscribers, that's more than what we had in the last 6 months of 2024, which is essentially when I started Melanin MVP. So we're already making way more progress than I was making on my own. So I'm excited to see how that number continues to grow and progress. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. There are some things that I took off of this list of goals. There are also some omissions. I didn't create goals for podcast downloads for either show. I didn't create a goal for article views for the Melanin MVP newsletter. Let me address the first one. I didn't put podcast download goals for Honey and Hustle because I wanted to focus on output, formats, and events. Whatever downloads come as a result of those are feedback on what my audience enjoys and what resonates with them. I just started the Melanin MVP podcast in January. So the first year is all about consistency, quality, guest curation, and finding an audience. I didn't put an article views goal for Melanin MVP because this is my first full calendar year with the newsletter. I also didn't have a goal for Please Hustle Responsibly for 2023 either, for reference. The first calendar year of any creative project is your baseline. Just see what you can do to the highest quality possible and what output cadence works best for you. The rest, specific objectives, strategies, and tactics, that will follow. In the past, I've measured my LinkedIn and other social media profile analytics. These numbers are no longer relevant to me. In order to create media across 2 newsletters, 2 podcasts, and a YouTube channel, not to mention digital products and whatever else I get myself into, I must give something up. And right now, that feels like giving up my consistent presence on LinkedIn and social media. I published almost daily on social media from late 2021 through the end of last year. If I can do that for almost 4 years, then I'm excited to see what I can accomplish on my long-term channels with an equal amount of focus. And when I say that, I mean 12,000 followers on LinkedIn, followers from all platforms converted to podcast listeners, newsletter subscribers, YouTube subscribers, new clients, speaking gigs, and some awesome friends I made in the DMs. LinkedIn reach has also kind of been in the dumps for these last couple of months as the company tries to figure out its goals with video. So, as usual, social media platforms are not solid foundations to build your marketing strategies upon. They're just one tool in the toolbox of building a community and a business. Please Hustle Responsibly has seen the strongest overall performance with view goals exceeded and substantial subscriber growth. This is a reflection of where I spend most of my time. When I was doing my daily podcast in February, my podcast download numbers grew significantly because I was spending a lot of my time on that channel. It's a numbers game, while not intentionally sacrificing quality. My YouTube channel growth shows healthy impression numbers, but there's definitely some room for improvement for converting those impressions to views and subscriptions. Melanin MVP shows a promising early growth rate despite lower absolute numbers across all of my platforms. I wasn't consistent at all with Melanin MVP when I started because I was still trying to figure things out. So this is a healthy baseline to start this full calendar year. While I've only reached one goal so far, which is the total views on my Please Hustle Responsibly newsletter articles, and some of them feel very far away, there are a few things I have to remind myself of and give myself grace on. If I were only spending my time and energy on one channel, that channel would likely be further along than it is right now. I have to live with the knowledge that publishing across mediums means that I also have to market those mediums and split my time and focus unequally. I'm doing better than I was last year in multiple areas. We've passed the total number of podcast downloads we achieved in 2024 already. We've earned twice as many views on articles and newsletters than in all of 2024. We've earned more new YouTube subscribers than in all of 2024. And we've earned more Melanin MVP newsletter subscribers than in all of 2024. And we're just 6 months in. We're just 6 months in. I'm just getting started. While many of the goals I've set seem really big, like the YouTube channel views and the Please Hustle Responsibly subscribers, I think the large numbers are helping me rise to the occasion. I've been an advocate of starting with the smallest version of your idea to lower the barrier and fear of imposter syndrome around starting. But what happens after you start and have a baseline of what you can achieve? Then you're in the scale phase, and I'm ready to grow and scale our reach on YouTube and my newsletter. I think my vision and voice are clear on both, and I'm continuing to get 1% better with each upload on both channels. So here's how I plan to close the gap on the goals that I haven't reached yet, which is, all but one. To reach 3,000 subscribers on the Please Hustle Responsibly newsletter, we started the year with a 2,250 person gap. We've chipped away at it, and here's what I plan to do for the remainder of the year to close it. You'll notice a pattern. Keep making shareable content. The guest posts have been really well received and shared, and it's been a joy to curate those articles. I'm also experimenting with turning my writing and articles into carousels and PDFs for LinkedIn. I found a new tool that's been making that process a bit easier for me. I'm going to keep doing Substack live sessions. Michelle, Corey, and I have been going steady since about February. I've also been joining some new folks on Substack Live and have some fun ones planned. I think continuing to leverage this platform to connect with folks is the way to go. I'm going to post more on YouTube. I say this all the time, but it still remains true. I finally got my first subscriber from YouTube. So hey there, if you're watching or listening to this. I think YouTube is going to be a great marketing platform once I stick with it. There are tons of crossover opportunities for me to mention this newsletter as I'm documenting my journey as a creative entrepreneur. I'm going to keep mentioning the newsletter in my podcast intros. A while back, I made a pre-roll ad for my podcast because Captivate allows you to do dynamic ad insertion, but it felt kind of stale and I removed it because it's no longer applicable. But an organic mention in my podcast intro and maybe even experimenting with a mid-roll ad are on my radar. Second, to reach 500,000 impressions and 55,000 views on YouTube this year, I set a goal to do almost 5 times what I usually do in 1 year. I also had the bright idea to change the focus of my YouTube channel from being an educational channel to more of a build and public channel. So instead of a video about the top 5 podcast marketing strategies, you're getting more of a look at my life as a creative entrepreneur and the real things I'm doing along my journey. I'm choosing to use my newsletter as more of an educational space, as this seems to be working really well. Videos documenting my journey may take longer to produce, especially to the quality that I like, but this feels like a more sustainable channel theme that I can maintain for the rest of my career. So here's how I plan to continue closing the gap on these goals. First up, if you've been waiting for more documentary-style podcast episodes from Honey and Hustle, well, you are in luck. I took a break from those to really hone in on the audio, formats, and packaging. Season 6 is already underway, and I'm excited to share both video and audio versions of the show. I'll be sprinkling in more short-form videos between the long-form episodes. I'll also be experimenting with different visual hooks on my short-form videos to increase viewership. I mentioned this earlier, so I'm going to reiterate it here. I really want to improve my impression of view conversion. This is a thumbnails and titles thing. It's always a thumbnails and titles thing. I think it's time I cave and purchase a YouTube thumbnail template pack. I've seen a low-cost one from Ali Abdaal that I'll probably grab so that I can get more consistent results from my packaging. And ultimately, I think I'm getting 2% better at the titles, so hopefully the title and thumbnail packaging will help me get better at this YouTube thing. To reach 1,400 subscribers on Melanin MVP, I was facing some major headwinds. I started the year with less than 100 subscribers, but not all is lost, and there's momentum growing every month. So here's how I plan to close the gap. First and foremost, I want to keep attending in-person events. I've attended WNBA watch parties, local basketball pickup games, NWSL games, and I'll be attending some WNBA games later this summer. Capturing the experience for fans and being in community with fans feels like the way to go. Maybe even sponsoring a few events with merch could also be a vibe. I know this sounds crazy, but leveraging memes and social videos on Threads has been very fun. The women's sports community on Threads is thriving and they live for silly stuff. Substack live sessions, I've done them a lot for my newsletter, Please Hustle Responsibly, but I want to do them more for women's sports fans. I've done 3 Substack live sessions on women's sports and I would like to do more. Not sure if I want to do them solo or if I want to have co-hosts, but I'll figure it out. Much to my chagrin, leveraging Instagram stories feels like the smart move. Many of my podcast guests are active on Instagram, and sharing links to Spotify and the newsletter on Instagram stories is a great way to get in front of their audience. I'll also at least consider some collaboration posts, even though I haven't posted on Instagram in years. Turns out I might have to make some sacrifices for this goal. If it were easy, everyone would do it. I want to change gears to the last part of this and share some creative experiments that I've done in the first 6 months of the year. I'm going to be ranking them from why bother to worth every minute. Sometimes when you're working in your business, you can forget that the time spent working on your business is equally valuable. I also get bored and creatively restless, so maybe tinkering is just in my nature. Here's a list of what I've been tinkering with this year in an effort to grow my community on my deep connection platforms, aka my podcasts and my newsletters. I want to note that these might not be as relevant for folks who are mainly trying to grow their freelance business or social media platforms. Let's start things off with short form videos. I give these a 6.5 out of 10. I've been making short videos introducing the articles that I write for my newsletters and posting them on YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, and Threads. I haven't seen a ton of conversion in new subscribers, but they do start conversations, which I enjoy and feel is valuable. I would say there is likely more I could do here in terms of experimenting with hooks and visual transitions to increase the ROI on these. I could also likely try posting these to TikTok, which I've been hesitant to do this year for obvious reasons, and Instagram, another platform I detest posting on. But the quality of depth is more important to me than the quantity of the platforms I'm posting on. For next up, podcast crossover episodes. I rank these an 8 out of 10. These include episodes I've hosted and episodes I've been a guest on. It's nice to test out this co-hosted style show where we're asking each other questions and coming to prepared to talk about very specific topics that are relevant to our audience. I mentioned it once and I'll mention it again. Memes on Threads. I give these a 7.5 out of 10. Social media is silly, and the creators on Threads seem to be in the mood for lighthearted jokes. Ever since I saw a live stream on Beehive talking about memes for marketing, I've been contemplating this low effort, high reward tactic. So far, I think it's worth the 2 seconds it takes to source and schedule these with a link to my newsletter. I started this recently, so I'll check back in later to let you know how this goes. Newsletter thumbnail design. I hate it, but I gotta give it a 2 out of 10. I did a ton of research on this. I made a swipe file in Notion. I created various templates in Canva. I created brand guidelines, the works. But ultimately, with all my link sharing, 90% of the views of my articles on my newsletter are going to come through email and not through web traffic. So with all the effort they take, not many people will actually see them. They look cute and shape the aesthetic of a newsletter website, but ultimately aren't a huge factor in web clicks or new subscribers in my experience. A lot of work, but not a huge payoff. Substack live streams. I give these a 9 out of 10. Unfiltered talks, audience engagement, audio and video for repurposing. It's an unexpectedly great community building platform. And I give Substack a lot of crap. I'm probably still not using it to its fullest potential as I don't repurpose the automated short video clips that Substack creates as well. The only hindrances are that Android users, like myself, can't schedule live streams on mobile, and you're unable to schedule live streams on desktop. I hear the second feature may be coming soon, supposedly. As I mentioned previously, I'm going to keep doing these, and I may even use the script to pick highlights and quotes for me to share as well to continue marketing these and get some more attendance going. Vibe coding. I give it an 8 out of 10. There are a ton of hindrances to creating apps and websites this way, believe me. All vibe coding platforms, that includes Bolt, Lovable, Replit, whatever new one is going to come out tomorrow, will all require integrations and plugins like crazy to get the maximum amount of use out of them. But there are some web designs I would only have been able to make with vibe coding. I still know very little about code, but I know a lot more about custom web design and user experience design, and it feels good that that's almost platform agnostic. Printing custom design posters and pamphlets. I gotta give this a 9 out of 10. Going the extra mile to make people smile and leave them with something tangible really paid off for me. I gave these away at Podcast Movement Chicago, and the response was incredible. I would definitely do this again. High cost, high reward. This may feel like a reiteration of something I said earlier, but this is maybe a little more specific to workflow, and it is creating short form video templates in Descript. I give this a 10 out of 10. The only 10 out of 10 I've given today. My temptation is to make every video have unique captions. The more difficult something is to copy, the better. But making every video unique means that the format isn't easily repeatable. And not just for me, but for any editor I want to work with. The reason I left CapCut wasn't just because of the proposed TikTok ban. It was because my editors couldn't easily replicate my results. I couldn't save templates or easily save caption presets. Descript also just makes it easier for me to go from long form to short form quickly. Having repeatable short form videos also makes them more recognizable on social media, which is a bonus. So those are my experience for the first 6 months of the year. Let's talk about some experience I may want to try in the next 6 months of the year when I have time. What's that? But these are some things that I'm excited to try next. Ultimately, I'm still trying to build a marketing engine that matches the growth and scale that I'm trying to achieve without sacrificing depth, quality, and community engagement. For reference, almost all of my digital marketing pre 2025 has been text based, photo based, and short form video based. And the latter two were not as consistent as the first one by a long shot. I'd mix in a poll on LinkedIn or speaking at an event every once in a while for a little razzle dazzle, but that's about it in terms of experimentation. There's nothing wrong with what I was doing, but as I move away from posting daily, the posts that I do publish have to convert more. So let's talk about that. One experiment I want to try in the second half of the year is creating lead magnets. So far, I've been using Notion and Chronicle, which is a new tool for this. I'm on the free plan for both. The only lead magnets I've tried are just gating the articles on my newsletter. So letting the content of the articles be the magnet, so to speak. I want to actually try to create useful docs for people to attract them to the newsletter as free downloads. One of the main social media platforms I use is LinkedIn, which many of you may know. Creating carousels in Figma is something I want to try. I am not a designer, but I really do believe that carousels are one of the media types that LinkedIn pushes, and there is a lot more creatively that I feel like can be done with carousel creation. I'm on the free plan on Figma. Canva isn't the best suited for carousel generation in bulk, especially. So I'm excited to play around with this and have some rotating calls to action at the end of each carousel to see how this works out for conversion. Next up, I have created something in Notion called rootfulx. Yes, 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 it sounds like SpaceX, but let's not think about that right now. Let's stay focused. This is my makeshift name for a place where I can safely experiment with AI applications for my business, whether that's meta prompting for my vibe coding sessions or brainstorming new ideas for each media project of my media business. This feels like a great way to stay organized and try new things in a safe space. I want to try sponsoring some in person events with merch. As much as I want to go to every relevant in person event, I simply can't if I actually want to get creative work done. So I'd like to be able to send merch and possibly a sign in form to events to be able to support event creators and reach more folks. When I say merch, I mean stickers, pins, maybe even posters, not necessarily bigger items and more expensive items like t shirts. So I'm excited to see how this goes. I want to have some signable posters for events, not just collectible posters for events. For Melanin MVP especially, I've been taking some inspiration from Tracksmith and Playa Society, and one thing they both do really well is big displays that people can sign when they reach a destination, whether that's the end of a marathon, whether that's WNBA All-Star Weekend, you name it. I think this is a keepsake that will bring people into the community and start conversations, two things that are very important to me. So this is something I'm hoping to try at least twice this year. I think twice is a good number. So that's all from me. This is my little 3-part series on the progress that I've made in the first 6 months of the year for my creative business. A lot of ups, a couple of downs, a couple of in-betweens that I'm still working through and figuring out. But I'd love to hear from you. What creative experiments are you running this year? What creative experiments would you like to try this year? What are your goals for this year and how are you doing? We still have 6 months left in the year, guys. So much time to try something new that could grow your audience engagement, community, and creative business. I'm rooting for you.